Hello again. Hopefully you've practiced rounding whole numbers. We're going to go through a quick check just to review, just in case you forgot in the time that you stopped the other video and started this one. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a number like 75,461. And we are going to round this number to the nearest 100. But Mrs. Cito, this is such a big number. How can we possibly handle it? Well, you know the very first thing I'm going to tell you is to make yes, you guessed it, a place value chart. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create my place value chart. I have my ones, my tens, my hundreds, my thousands, and then I have my 10,000s. That's pretty awesome. It's a big number that we get to play around with. All right. I also know that this is giving me directions to round to the nearest 100. So when I look in the place value chart, this is the place value I am rounding to. This is the place value I am rounding to. This is the place value that I am using as the place value to the right. I am using this place value to make decisions. This is my decision maker. So I know that whatever I do, I'm going to have to decide what is the nearest 100 for 75,461. I know that when I do the rounding, I'll have hundreds, but I won't have anything to the right. But I know that while I'm doing the rounding, I have to look at what's in the tens column. I like roller coasters. Here we go. Here's our roller coaster. There's our track. Okay. Our starting point is going to be everything up to the hundreds place value. So it's going to be 75,400. Again, I'm trying really hard not to make those kinds of mistakes. But my tongue sometimes gets ahead of my brain. So I know when I count by hundreds, I say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So I know at this end of my roller coaster, I'm going to have 75,500. Now remember, I'm looking for a magical number that comes in between. This is going to be the number that helps me make my decision, and it has to be in tens. So I know that halfway between 400 and 500 is going to be 450. So my number in the middle, that's my magical number, is 75,450. It's magical. I know that I'm going to have to count by tens, backwards and forward to help me. So I'm going 75,440, 75,430. The only thing I'm changing is tens because I'm counting by tens. 75,420 and 75,410. Then on the opposite side of that, I'm going with 75,460, 75,470, 75,480, 75,490. Again, I'm counting by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Even though I have all this big number in front of it. All right, so the number that I need to place on my number line is going to be 75,460, because this 10 right here is what's going to help us make our decision. So when I put my roller coaster cart on the number line, My person gets super excited. I have hair. Whee! Because they're going to round to the next 100. Okay, so I used the tens to help me round to the nearest 100. So 75,461 rounded to the nearest 100 is 75,500. 75,500. It does not matter how big or small your number is. If you use this process of making yourself a place value chart and a number line of some kind, whether it's a roller coaster or anything else, it will help you round the numbers. That's if you get stuck. If it's an easy one and you think you know it and you don't think that you need to use a number line and you're confident in your rounding, feel free to use our little chant. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score by 1. Now, we need to approach decimals. Decimals are important. So we need to look at how do we round to the nearest decimal. So let's look at a number like this. 4 and 75 hundredths rounded to the nearest tenth. Rounded to the nearest tenth. Some of you may be able to do this in your head. Others of you, it's okay if you need to make a place value chart. That's the first thing I'm going to start with. I make my place value chart. I have my ones. I have my tenths on the other side of my decimal. And then I have my hundredths. I know it seems like because it says hundredths that these would be bigger pieces, but if I had a candy bar and I broke it into tenths, if I broke it into 10 pieces, I would have bigger pieces than if I broke it into 100 pieces. There would be more pieces, but the size of them would be smaller. So this is our smallest place value. Everything to the right gets smaller and smaller. Everything to the left gets bigger and bigger. So this is the place value I am rounding to. This is the tenth. I'm rounding to. If you thought for a second that maybe the 5 and the hundredths was going to be your decision maker, you are correct. We move one place value to the right, and we use that to make our decision. Just like with our whole numbers, we're going to create a roller coaster. Track, there's the track right there. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. So that's what we need to have down here is something that's in tenths. So I know by looking at this, 4 and 7/10 is the starting point. 4 and 7/10. Some of you may need this little ghosty 0 here to help you. It doesn't change the value. 4 and 7/10 is the same as 4 and 70 hundredths. We've talked about that before. Now, when I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what comes after 7? 8. So on this end, I'm going to put 4 and 8/10. This is where the little ghosty 0 kind of comes in handy, because we can look at this and say, oh, between 70 and 80, a halfway point is 75. So our decimal up here is going to be 4 and 75 hundredths. This is our magic number. Some of you may already see what happened. You see? It's okay if you want to go through and put all of your numbers in here. 4.74, 4.73, 4.72, 4.71. And remember, that's the lazy man's way to say it. It's really 4 and 71 hundredths, 4 and 72 hundredths. But for time's sake, I'm going to keep going with 4.76, 4.77, 4.78, and 4.79. Well, this strange thing happened. Strange things are happening to me. Right here at the tip top of the hill is our little roller coaster cart. Remember that once we hit our magic number, 4.75, then we're going to continue to move forward. It's going to be closer on our number line just to go ahead and go down that hill to 4.8. It has enough momentum to keep moving forward. So on this one, we're going to round 4.75 to the nearest nearest tenth. That's what I'm talking about. So we know it's going to be 4.8. Don't be confused because you have 4.75 here and 4.75 here. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. That means everything to the right becomes a 0. It doesn't matter anymore. We can just drop off this 5. Okay? So we're going down here, 4.8. If it helps you to put the little ghosty 0, that's fine, but you need to know that 4.8 is the same as 4.80. So 4 and 8 tenths is the same as 4 and 80 hundredths. All right, I'm going to stop here. Hopefully your brain has not exploded, and I will talk to you soon.